We're talking about arcs, chords, and tangents. And for these example problems, we're going to talk about try to recognize and use relationships between arcs and chords. So for number 5, it says solve for x. We'll do h, I, and j in a different video. So in this case, we can see that we have two congruent marks right there. So these two chords are congruent is what we're saying. So we can say MP, line segment MP is congruent to line segment RQ. And if that's the case, then we can also say that the arcs are congruent. So we can say that arc MP is congruent to arc RQ. So in that case, we can say that both the arcs are 67 because the arcs are congruent. So this has to be 67 degrees. And this also has to be 67 degrees. And then we know that the central angle, right here, we're talking about the central angle ROQ. That's the value of x. The central angle is always the same as the arc. So in this case, we know that x is equal to 67 degrees because the arc and the central angle that make the arc always have the same measurement. Next one we have x 38, and we don't know. And we want to try to figure out what x is. The thing that we're given is that the two chords are congruent. So we can say that ST is congruent to SU. Line segment ST is congruent to line segment SU. So if those are congruent, then we can say that the arc ST is congruent to arc SU. So in that case, if we know ST is x, then we also know that SU is also x. And we know all the angles of a circle add up to 360 degrees. So now we can substitute that in. We can say 360 degrees is equal to x degrees plus x degrees plus 38 degrees. So then we get 360 is equal to 2x plus 38. And we want to subtract 38 degrees from both sides of the equal sign. And then we are left with 322 degrees. And that's equal to 2x. Divide by 2, and we get x is equal to 161 degrees. We're looking at example C. Now, we're not given any measurement or any marks, but we're said that PQ is 14 and RS is 14. So that means that PQ is congruent to RS. So PQ is congruent to RS. And so we can write that down. Line segment PQ is congruent to line segment RS. So if the line segments are congruent, then that means that the arcs are congruent. So arc PQ is congruent to arc RS. And then we can substitute the values in for the arcs. And we get x plus 17 is equal to 4x plus 2. And we want to subtract x from both sides of the equation, and we're left with 17 is equal to 3x plus 2. Then we want to subtract 2 from both sides, and we get 15 is equal to 3x. And then we can divide both sides by 3. And then we're left with x is equal to 5. A couple more examples to look at. This is very similar to the one we did with B, where in this case we're told that all the chords, chord AB is 11 and chord AC is also 11. So we can say that AB, line segment AB, is congruent to line segment AC. So if those are congruent, then we know that the arcs are congruent. So we can say arc AB is congruent to arc AC. So if that's the case, then we know that AC is also equal to X. And in that case, we know that all of the angles of a circle add up to 360 degrees. So we can say 360 degrees is equal to X plus X plus 114. And we solve this by subtracting 114 from both sides of the equal sign. And we are left with 246. And that is equal to 2x. Divide both sides by 2. We get 123 is equal to x. E is basically the same, where we have two congruent chords. So that means that the arcs also have to be congruent. So if this is x, then this one also has to be x. So the way that we know that, we can say that arc JK is congruent to arc LK. So because that's the case, we know that that is x. And then we can, again, set that equal to 360 degrees and solve for our missing value. So we get 360 degrees is equal to 70 degrees plus x plus x. And then we can subtract 70 from both sides. And on the left side, we're left with 290 degrees. And on the right side, we can combine these two x's, and we're left with 2x. And then we divide by 2, and we get x is equal to 145 degrees. F is a little bit different. In this case, we're told that the arcs are congruent. So if the arcs are congruent, that means that our chords also have to be congruent. So we'll put 3 marks on this one, and we'll put 3 marks on this one. And then we can just solve and set those equal to each other. So we're going to get 2x plus 4 is equal to 18. So first thing we want to do is subtract 4. And we will get 2x is equal to 14. And then we'll divide both sides by 2.